Well, hey all, welcome to the road. Bennett and I are headed back from a class on the east side of the country, and we were having a conversation about an old court case she was reading on, where a young woman, 18 years old?
18, yes, Kelsey Smith.
Was brutally stalked, abducted, raped, and then murdered. I believe this happened 2007.
That sounds right, yeah.
The murderer, young man, 27 years old, married, sounded like he had an okay life, was sentenced to life in prison without parole for destroying this young girl's life. And the conversation that we were having, I was just listening from a lady's perspective. Of course, I'm vulnerable as a man to predators and violence and all those things, but not the same way as a woman is. And so I said, hey, we should pull the microphones out and discuss this. So that's what we're doing now. So talk a little bit about the story, just from beyond what I just said, to give the people watching an idea, and you guys can go read about it too.
So I was doing a little reading about Kelsey Smith. She was 18 years old. She was just your run-of-the-mill average 18-year-old. She was running an errand. I think she was going to Target, and she did not realize that there was a man that was watching her. I believe he was in the parking lot and then followed her into the store, where he watched her get ready to leave and then proceeded to go out to her car. And he had an airsoft gun. So when she opened her door to her car, he shoved her in, and he sat behind her with the airsoft gun and told her to drive, where he told her that she would be okay. He promised her he wouldn't hurt her.
Just said, I want you to take me somewhere. I'm not going to hurt you. I just need a ride, basically.
Basically, that was it. And which was a complete and total lie, which we know that that's always going to be a lie. And he raped and murdered her in a secluded wooded area just a few miles down the road.
And one of the things that we were talking about, so it's, as Bennett just said, that's a lie. Nobody's holding you at gunpoint, especially a young lady. A man's not holding you at gunpoint saying, I'm going to just need a ride somewhere. Right. I won't hurt you. So the old adage is never leave. Never let them take you somewhere. Never let them get you in the trunk of the car. Never let them take you away from people. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to say that, but we've all seen somebody need help. For example, a person pulled over with a car broke down and it's really cold out or it's really hot out. We just all assume now that somebody's got a cell phone. Mm-hmm. And even if they have a cell phone, we're just assuming that they have the means that they can just make a call and fix it. I can't speak for everybody, but there's been plenty of times in my life where I didn't have a pot to piss in. Even if I had a phone, there was no money in my wallet to get a tow truck, to get help. Hell, I've run out of gas, and the reason I was out of gas is there wasn't enough money in my young wallet to buy the fuel. And you can bust my chops, but my point is, we just assume that somebody's gonna help. So that's kind of like the entire message of CarryTrainer: be your own Calvary. Mm-hmm. I've heard other people say, be your own hero, be your own first responder, be your own rescuer, be your own lifeguard, be your own EMT, fill in the blank. But the conversation then went to us talking about not just you, but young ladies in our life. And you had a conversation with a young woman very close to us, and talk about that a little bit.
So when I first thought about this, like you said, this was approximately 20 years ago, my first reaction was like, oh, wow. We weren't saturated in paying attention to our phones like we do now.
Yeah.
It seems like everywhere we look, and we're constantly seeing this, is, people walking around with their phone like right here in their face and not really looking up and being aware of what's going on around them. And I just thought to myself how much more vulnerable young ladies are today.
Yeah.
Anybody actually. Anybody is more vulnerable just because we are constantly being pulled in so many different directions that are, it's stealing our attention to what's going on right now. And I thought, wow, we're so, past the point of really, understanding that paying attention is so important. Like, I don't even know if people realize it. Anyhow, talking to this teenager in our life, I showed her this because I care about her and you care about her. So I showed her the video and I let her watch it. And the first thing she said was, I would have never...
Covering your microphone.
I would have never left the parking lot. I would have drove straight into a parked car with nobody in it. I would have smashed into it as hard as I could to set off all the alarms. I would have, just injected immediate violence with the car as soon as I could. I would have taken the chance that this person would have, shot me and just, seen how it went, because I know, once somebody drives away with you, they're never going to bring you back. And first of all, other thing she said was like, I wouldn't be looking down at my phone walking away. But this girl wasn't looking down at a phone. She didn't even have a phone like I could see in the video clip in her possession. She was looking around, and somehow she missed this.
It's pretty easy
monster.
To just be another person in a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been in a parking lot and had hundreds of people around us going to and from their cars, putting their packages away, etc. You can't constantly tell everybody get away from me, so he could have casually just been walking like he was going to a car and then turned and accosted her at the last minute.
So she didn't know, she didn't understand he only had an airsoft gun. She thought it was a real gun, which I don't know whether she saw it or not.
If somebody's in the back seat,
right.
You can't see it unless
right.
you're an expert.
Yeah.
You're not going to know. And even then, I don't want to get shot in the face by an airsoft gun.
Right. But she was scared. Definitely.
So the thing that is impressive for me, impressive in the sense of it left a mark. This girl that we're talking about, our relative, that's a rare thing. It's easy to say, okay, I would have done this or that, but you can't it requires a digesting of these kinds of thoughts and material to be capable of making that jump, I believe, from what we know about violence. I think it's sad. We've had family members say to us, I just don't want to think about this stuff. Yeah, I don't really want to think about it either.
Right.
I would love to just talk about art and music and bread making and gardening and music and have a great time, but the fact is there is monsters and werewolves and dogs that bite and disease and germs and tree limbs that fall onto tents.
Right.
You have to think about shit.
Right. While I don't like, exposing this person to the violence that's out in the world, I think it's totally necessary, because if you're not exposed to this is what could happen, how would you deal with it? You're not exposing yourself to it, and then what is your composure then under stress? I guess
a phrase that younger guys won't know who he is, and that's okay. Colonel Cooper, who I don't worship at the altar of Cooper, but I completely appreciate who he was and what he did. In one of his books and on some videos, I've heard him say it. I never got to know the man, but he talks about thinking about these things so that if it happens, with whatever it is, an airplane crashing, a horse trying to buck you, a drowning incident, but more importantly to who he was talking about in the context of what I'm about to say, a gun battle or a fight, he was saying, I've thought about it enough that when it happens, it's a recognition. Oh, here's this thing I've thought of. Not only have I seen it in my mind's eye, I've thought about how I'll behave. I know what to do. Here we go.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh my God, what's happening? I can't believe this is happening. I've always tried to push these thoughts out of my head. And that's a hard thing. So kind of our point in making this discussion for you guys, or having it, isn't because we're some sage people with wisdom you don't have, but we're encouraging you to have hard discussions with people you care about. Every couple of months, I share the story in a class. I don't do it often because it's not always fitting, of a girl that my family grew up with. Her name was Beth, who was murdered at 16 years old. Not dissimilar to the story that we just heard from Bennett, where a man decided, I'm going to rape and kill this girl. And he stabbed her over and over again with a pocket knife, and then he tried to hide his tracks by lighting the house on fire. And this man just recently died in prison. His name was Dale Kauke. And every single time I think about Beth, I was 15 the day my mom called and told me to come home because something had happened. Not a single time do I think about her that I don't wonder what would be different if a woman like Bennett got to talk with her some more as a young girl, not to freak her out or fill her with fear, but, you know, late at night, you're home alone babysitting and 16 years old, which is a totally normal thing, right? Mom and dad go on a date, they have the 16-year-old girl come over to babysit. That's a very normal thing in any town, USA, and some creep watches you. What would you have told that girl? Besides, don't open the door, right? Mm-hmm. How do you, and this is the hard part. You need to harden somebody's heart and mind enough to be capable of thinking about horrific things. And I think the best way I've thought about it, for me, we used to butcher dozens of chickens at a time, or doves, or pigeons, or animals in general in the farm. Or we just talking today with a friend about harvesting deer. There's zero pleasure for me in killing animals. I didn't laugh or take glee in chopping a chicken's head off, or loosing an arrow, or pulling the trigger on a deer or a turkey or whatever the game was. And it was a necessary part of life. We need to eat, unless you're a vegan, but even then you're killing living things. But I digress from that. It's a conversation like that, like, hey, you eat chicken, you eat steak, you eat, food. This is where it comes from, and you are a fool to hide that from a person forever. It doesn't mean you need to go to a slaughterhouse and, just watch all day long, but it's a dumb thing to try to ignore it. And that's, what do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely right. Just like that cow or that chicken or whatever, you're a human, you're more powerful, you have different ways that you can hunt or take that animal to slaughter. And I'm not talking down about women, but the reality is, ladies, we will never be as big and as strong, and possibly maybe not as violent as the men are, in the world. And so you definitely have to, be prepared to inject immediate violence if you feel like you're being accosted or falling into a victim situation. You always have to be looking.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I kind of think about it. We practice grappling skills, and it's an analogy, so don't overthink it. But like, if somebody's really good at grappling, state champion wrestler, collegiate wrestler, upper belt in jiu-jitsu or judo or something like that, they could allow somebody with lesser skill or strength to do something to them. Climb on top of them, put an arm around their throat or arm, or something like that. In fact, some of my coaches, like Dan Hart or our friend Henry Akins, they or even the ladies too, not even in a diminishing way, but they do the same thing. These more skilled, seasoned people will allow a lesser seasoned person to put them in a vulnerable position to try to escape from it, testing their ability to evade, to save themselves, to put themselves back in a dominant position. A woman, trained or untrained, against a man cannot afford to allow it to get to the point that somebody's shoving you in the car. You can't allow yourself to you can't be the cat backed into the corner. You can't be that cow in the gate, going up the ramp to get slaughtered. You have to catch trouble long before you get there.
Yes.
And that's not saying that a man can't easily get caught. I will tell another story, which I just told this story yesterday, and I hate telling the story, but we lost our friend Kevin Elder several years ago, who was tragically murdered. And the fact is, this man had all the skill, all the strength, all the training, all the speed, all of the know-how to have it not happen. He was a major in the United States Army, retired. He was a United States Army Ranger. He deployed around the globe. He had a great amount of physical strength. He could bench press hundreds of pounds. He had years of martial training in firearms, in hand-to-hand combat, etc. And he was brutally murdered, shot many times from behind by a person that he thought he was helping. And you can go read about the facts of his case. Not only did he have all of those things, but people didn't even try to find him because they just assumed, because of all the things I told you, that he was just off somewhere being alone because he was a veteran, and that's would have fit the MO for him to disappear to a hotel or leave town, when the truth is he was in a blue barrel in the barn of the murderer's home. And I take no pleasure in telling the story. He was my friend. He helped us at training events. I don't tell the story to sensationalize it, to sell views. I tell the story because if somebody like that can get caught, so can you, so can me. And so too can a 18-year-old or 16-year-old girl like Beth, or what was this girl's name?
Kelsey Smith, yeah.
So we can't afford to get caught closer to being in the net or in the web. And you have to be aware of it. Our daughters, we talk about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
How do you deal with this? And sometimes it's an unfun conversation. If this happens, what do you do? And sometimes there isn't a right answer. I just want to hear what you're thinking. Like right now, if this happens, what would you do? And sometimes they say stuff where I'm like, damn, I didn't think of that.
That's true.
I wouldn't have done that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like when I was talking to the teenager that we're talking about now, about what would you do in this scenario, when she said, well, I would just, drive violently into like a parked car in the middle of the parking lot or whatever's close to me, and make all the alarms go off. And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't really think of that. But, I was surprised, but I think something like that would work. It would definitely draw attention and give you time to escape, I guess. But
that brings up this idea of modeling that we talk about all the time. It was modeled for that kid to possibly do something far out of the ordinary to win. And how many times have we seen people unwilling to break a window in a burning vehicle? We've talked about that. I've seen this with my own eyes. Well, we can't break the glass. The fire department's not here. But there is an unconscious elderly woman in the vehicle that's full of smoke and it's on fire. There's nothing to talk about. But it's been modeled to them that we're not the police, we're not the fire or paramedics, so we'll just wait and watch an old person die. Or the truck rollover that we saw. We can't go inside the vehicle because we're not fire or EMS, but there's a guy hanging upside down dying. We kind of need to do it.
Right.
Or we can live with not doing it. So it was modeled to this girl that it's okay to do possibly things outside of what we consider safe or lawful or normal
If
it's to do something right.
And immediately.
Exigency.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's another thing. Are we teaching our kids what exigent circumstances are, and how to recognize them, and even at any time, whatever our level of knowledge, training, experience is in life, what's exigent for a 16-year-old girl might not be exigent for you as an adult, seasoned mom, lady, world traveler.
I would rather her be safe than sorry, though.
Sure.
Definitely.
And of course, there's caveats to that. She's not going to drive into a school bus. We're not going to risk our life to kill 10 kids.
Right.
We're not going to, or save our life to hurt another. That's not what we're talking about. Because she did specifically say an empty car.
Yeah, parked empty car. I thought it was a great answer.
For sure. So, taking the whole conversation and wrapping it in a bow, you have to do uncomfortable things like have conversations and think about things that are not comfortable or comforting, to have some capacity to deal with the uncomfortable thing if it may come. I think a great example of that we've all dealt with or all will deal with is a family member dying. It's like it's not fun to go plan your own funeral or cremation or whatever, but it's the adult thing to do. Which is why we're going to sell you Mickey and Bennett's. I'm just kidding. Like, those kinds of things all come to us, and if you just do it and get it over with, which I've not done, but I need to. Hopefully it's not needed for a long, long time. But it's just like, it's the proper way to handle certain situations and not just leave it for your offspring when they're shattered, when they find out that you've passed away and now they got to go deal with it. How much better to be in the bad situation and somebody to have already planned and thought about it. So what are your closing parting thoughts for men or women on all sides of this conversation?
I think as a parent, when you're talking about your kids, talk about uncomfortable, situations, talk about awareness, what's around you, and what you might have to do to save your own life. I think it's really important to train, obviously. I love when we're at the gym. I work with some of the guys in jiu-jitsu, and they will put me in situations where I understand what I need to do to get out of that situation. They don't hurt me. They're wonderful training partners, but those are safe situations that you can kind of build some background knowledge to understand what you might have to do in an emergency.
I like that.
I do like that too. And the ladies do the same thing, working with Katie and Kasha. Shout out to them because they do the same thing. They help a lot of the ladies out. Great situations to be in. And then also, I mean, if you're a parent that carries, maybe be honest with your child about why you do that. You're in charge of protecting yourself and them, and maybe you will induce into them the knowledge and understanding and maybe the desire that they want to do that as well when they become an adult and a parent.
I dig that. A comment on the martial arts training, women and men. There's a lot of thoughts on this. I'm not an expert, but I have trained thousands of adults, both male and female, in survival techniques with firearms, emergency medicine, and the like. And there are women that will only train with other women because it makes them uncomfortable to train with men. I'm not telling you should train with men, but I'm telling you that if you only feel what the strength of another female is, if you only feel what the weight or pressure of another female is, when confronted by the weight of even a loving, caring training partner, it could be your husband or your boyfriend or somebody that you trust. It doesn't have to be just some strange dude. It can be shocking. And I have grappled with men that are hundreds of pounds more than me, so that is a similarity, and it is like, holy crap. Like if I was a 125-pound female, this is what it would feel like to have a 250-pound or 300-pound guy. But I think even as a man with a much heavier, larger man, I'm still better off than a female with a larger man. Our muscles are bigger, our cardiovascular system's stronger, our skeletal structure is harder to cave in and break, etc., even with a same percentage of greater weight on top of us. So my point is, find a program, jiu-jitsu, etc., with some high quality people, with trusted training partners that are not trying to hurt you, that will expose you to the things that are going to help you become more prepared in the stuff we're talking about. Some of the females that she just mentioned, I have to try, and they are more seasoned grapplers than I have to try with all my wits to not just be a stronger person and try to overpower them with strength. And even sometimes when I do, it doesn't help me because of their years of training with men. They know how to deal with angles and things like that to basically nullify some of the attributes that nature gave me. And you don't get that by chance or happenstance. That's Hart Jiu-Jitsu in Woodstock, Illinois, by the way, which is usually all over our social media, but you can easily go to the website, which is danhartjiujitsu.com. I'll throw it up on the screen here so you've got the exact URL. Something to talk about. But
if you're a lady and you are afraid to start out with guys, get started. At least just get started, even if it's an all women's class. Get your kids started.
For sure. I wasn't. I hope that point didn't come off that way, that I'm just suggesting that. And on the same token, there are all kinds of men that we see, myself included. I would be lying to say that from time to time, especially in the past, it can be humbling and even humiliating, depending on the fragility of one's ego, to have your ass handed to you by another man. There is nothing quite as humbling as a man that thinks he's a man finding out that he can do nothing and another man imposes his will on you. In fact, my friend Z became the grappler and fighter that he is. Even as a seasoned combat vet, he had a trained grappler just manhandle him, and he told himself, I will never be so susceptible to having somebody's will imposed on me. And so he spent decades. And I've had similar situations. So as a man, I would much rather someone that cares about me impose their will on me to teach me than a stranger who intends me real harm impose their will on me. And that is the lesson for you ladies, for the girls that we thought we'd make this video for you moms and dads, grandpas, uncles, whoever that has ladies below them in age, daughters, nieces, grandkids, whatever. Get them involved, not just in the training, but in the awareness piece.
Even your wives.
Of course.
Definitely get your wives involved.
Closing words.
I guess I'm very passionate about the safety of women, as we're somewhat more vulnerable than men. So I'm constantly listening to court cases and trying to gather information in those cases that I can pass on to other women to help them stay safe. So there's nothing wrong with you ladies getting out there and doing that same kind of homework on your own, teaching it to your daughters or your nieces, just other women in your life. Get out there and train, jiu-jitsu, firearms, and just be aware. Be well.
Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them. CarryTrainer.com to come to one of our classes. We just wrapped up a 2-day pistol class. She outshot the dudes in many of the drills, especially the accuracy ones. We got a rifle class coming up in Tennessee. Our friends down there at Middle Tennessee Firearms Training, husband and wife team, awesome folks down there. She will probably be on the range with us down there, as well as Bennett.
Yes.
And we'd love to see you there. S12's coming up after that in Tennessee as well. That is a 4-day event, medical, pistol, combatives, health and wellness, movement, some good food, good fellowship, beautiful scenery. We see some bald eagles, some white-tailed deer, some turkeys.
A ton of knowledge. It'll change your life.
Yeah, great people. Yeah. And we've got classes set up for Florida, Pennsylvania, Washington, and a few other places already going into the winter and spring. See you soon. If you guys haven't, check out Ignis Lux Coffee. I'm wearing one of our shirts, Ignis Lux Coffee. We roast it in-house. It's air roasted, which means that it will not only taste delicious, it doesn't create that acidic, gutty heartburn that a lot of coffees do, and we only use single origin, high quality specialty beans. Ignis Lux, it's Latin for firelight. It denotes the fire that burns in all of us, keeping this place alive. See you soon.